Very happy to be joined by Harmony Korine with this lovely mask for AGGRO Drift screening here. Thank you for being here.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Mom, Harmony's being weird again. So I just saw AGGRO Drift, the new film from respected weirdo Harmony Korine. And there's one thing I can say about it. It may not be the worst film of the year, but it will certainly be the dumbest. This is going to be just my general thoughts on the film. I went into this just to kind of figure out what all the hoo-ha was about. Just what the hell is Harmony smoking this time around? If I had to say, definitely lots of brownies and maybe a smidge of DMT. So this film got quite a lot of hate last year at its premiere at Toronto Film Festival and Venice, which firstly is not really surprising for a few reasons. One, it's the new film from underground filmmaker Harmony Korine, who's essentially built a career on making movies that are as far from accessible as you can probably get in American cinema. Two, the whole film is shot in infrared, like legitimately the whole thing. And three, he literally advertised the film by saying he was bored of cinema and that he wanted to not make a traditional movie, essentially citing influences in the form of video games, which watching the film actually makes a lot of sense. As a result, it quickly became the most talked about film from those film circuits. And yeah, I can quickly understand why. Not to mention there was a total abandonment of a traditional film release. Whether that was because Korine couldn't find a distributor, I don't know. So he almost went with kind of an album tour release under his EDGLRD label, accompanying the film with live DJ sets from the film's composer Reubensr, Swedish rapper Young Lean, and yeah, Harmony himself, which the latter I highly recommend if you want to see the biggest troll DJ set that's probably ever been put to camera. You also follow this up with exclusive screenings at the classiest of establishments, Los Angeles strip clubs. So I think it can be safe to say the film doesn't take itself too seriously, and the film's absurdity is completely intentional. However, does that necessarily equate into a good film? No, absolutely not, no. So what is this film, this visual eye stain, this adrenaline rush, music video, whatever the hell you want to call this? Couldn't tell you. I mean, the most accurate I can be is it follows a melancholic assassin who's looking for a new lease on life. He goes on moaning about how his job has cursed his life and that he's purely doing it to support his wife and kids. I suppose you could say the film is trying to depict his desensitized view on the job, how he essentially sees the role of killing as being just a chore, almost like a video game. It's a pretty traditional story. We've had this kind of story told many, many times through the lens of an assassin and of a killer. Yeah, you haven't seen anything like this though. The way this film is told, it is completely obtuse, weird. For a lot of it, it makes absolutely no sense. This is an adrenaline-filled teenage boy's fantasy put to screen. Assassins, guns, voluptuous women, edgy monologues, boat parties, Travis Scott. If that sounds exciting to you, that doesn't mean you're gonna necessarily like this. The film is actually quite starved of action sequences. Puts more attention into these long, overdrawn, terribly embarrassing monologues. This has the story and screenplay quality of a porno.
It gets bigger when I pull on it.
Which, not gonna lie, makes for some of the funniest and lamest dialogue you will probably hear, not just this year, but for quite a while. This is as profound as a wet fart. This is the type of film where the villain of the piece is a gangster carrying a sword and for some reason or another, dry humps the air. This is the type of film where the main assassin will shoot someone in the neck and the victim will all of a sudden pronounce loudly, "Ah, you got me." Yes, this actually happens. This is the type of film where our poetic assassin talks about the only thing being important, love, while his voluptuous wife twerks on him. It's just absolutely absurd. It totally makes sense why when it was at Venice and Toronto, they did midnight screenings of this film so people could get absolutely smashed watching this film because, yeah, that's really the only way to properly watch this film. But I make an argument it could have gone further because the film is a real slog. Despite it being only 80 minutes, this film drags on. Nothing happens. It will really test your patience. In fact, I can guess right now, I would say only 10% of people who start this film will finish it. Which is a shame, because one thing you can say about this film is it's definitely a vibe. It's obnoxious, it's extremely stupid, but it's also constantly a visual feast. Granted, there is an attempt to try and change the look of the film to keep people invested. There's a lot of color changes as scenes continue. There's a lot of really interesting use of AI, creates these really psychedelic motions in the scene. Certainly sounds like an eyesore, but I don't know, I found it quite enjoyable. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention Travis Scott is in this, who acts as a student and disciple to the main assassin. And look, I can't say his acting is bad when he has to deliver some of the worst dialogue I think I've ever heard put to screen. Like, this scene will definitely be memed.
Wake up, do it, go to sleep, do it, get up, do it, even when you sleep, do it.
Now, if you're looking to not sit through the whole thing, which 100% understand if you don't want to, I will recommend to check out the last 20 minutes. There's actual action that occurs. There is a real video game quality to this final boss scene, which I found quite interesting. I really wish that they had just used the infrared on a more kind of action-oriented film. I just feel like it's wasted potential. They really could have gone for more fun action scenes using this style. Like, imagine a John Wick or like Raid type film using infrared. It may sound like an eyesore, but I reckon you could do some really interesting stuff with that. No, he decides to just give us 60 minutes of pondering about how crap it is being an assassin, and maybe 10 minutes of actual assassinating. I think if you've reached this moment by now, I think you've decided whether this film is going to be for you. Look, I will admit, it's trying to do something different. There's nothing quite like it. Its humor is truly bizarre. It's very childish, which I would have been fine with, but I also feel like there was a lot of untapped potential. Like, I think no other filmmaker is going to do this again. This is not going to be exactly a box office smash. So yeah, I think it's going to be just a failed experiment. But it's a shame that while doing this experiment, they didn't do something more with the idea, which is kind of what I feel like with a lot of Korine's movies, actually. Maybe I was expecting too much sense to come out of a Harmony Korine film. But even saying that, I think it's pretty tame compared to some of Korine's other works, which were much more memorable and much more confronting. I'll probably remember it for like a week because it is just so bizarre. But yeah, I was kind of disappointed with this. Again, not the worst film I've ever seen. It's not the worst film of the year. Yeah, sorry, this one just didn't do it for me. I'm gonna give it 4 out of 10. I could easily give it a 3, but again, it is strange. I did laugh, and yeah, just the utter absurdity and childish nature of it, sort of enjoyable, but yeah, I really thought it could go further. You can purchase it on the EDGLRD main website, which is how I watched it, but I think it's also going to be released on other video on demand services if you are interested in checking it out. So yeah, those are my general thoughts on Aggro Drift. Hope everyone's really well. If you like that video, please remember to like and subscribe to the Curtain Call if you want to see some other strange, bizarre analyses of movies. Actually, don't do a lot of too bizarre films, but there'll be a few coming up, so keep your eye up for that. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you guys on the next video.